morning, Pam.
Good morning, Peter.
I'm here at Meadowlands Public School with Pam Parks, who is a teacher extraordinaire and has been a teacher extraordinaire for quite a few years.
Over 30, Peter.
Over 30?
Yeah.
Has all of that time been here?
Started my career, I was different places.
Yeah.
My student teaching was here and then I came back.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you have a group of children, students coming in, how do you view them in terms of intelligence? Because you really flatten the hierarchy, don't you? You don't believe in the fact that some kids are brilliant or not, you believe all kids are brilliant.
Absolutely.
How do you enact that?
Well, we start with a multiple intelligence survey, and just to highlight that we all are brilliant, and there's so many different ways to be intelligent, if we want to use that word. And kids start to look at all the different ways that they can show their genius and show their brilliance, and it changes things.
It does.
Because someone who does gymnastics but maybe can't, math is not their strength. Rhythm and movement, that's a whole brilliance right there.
Yeah.
Art, drawing, another brilliance. And we start to see that, someone who is school brilliant maybe can't do all the things that other kids can do.
Yeah.
So it's really, we all have all the intelligences, but we all have them in varying degrees.
Absolutely.
And math and, the traditional celebrated ones at school aren't the only ones.
No, they're certainly not.
And so that's a focus.
So moving through the connection here, I see you're into Genius Hour.
I love Genius Hour. We all know the origins of it and the success that it has had in business and in schools. And it's an exciting way that I end the school year with. We have a lot of fun with it. We have kids who are making their own pinball game.
Well, I'm just looking. It's astonishing.
I know.
A pinball game, character design through code, the collapse of the Austro. Where did that come from?
Well, I've got a kid who loves history, so that's what he's having. So the rule is, if you are not having fun doing Genius Hour, then you've picked the wrong topic.
Absolutely.
And so what do you want to learn about? So they decide, and then we talk about what's the driving question. If it's Googleable, then they have to rethink it. It has to have legs. And so we've got kids in here, they're doing friendship bracelets and trying to perfect their designs, and they have a whole thing going on with that. I had kids the other day, it's brilliant for me, I'm learning things. They were hand knitting. They had the big knitting, I don't know, not thread, but wool, and they had a purse made by the end. How is that even possible? It's brilliant.
Isn't it brilliant? And you see also, and it's also, every time I've been involved, it's surprising.
It is surprising, and every year
you
it's
have no
totally
idea where these kids are going to go. And what I love about it too, I've come across this so many times, the topics sometimes that they come up with, nobody in the school has got a clue.
No.
Which takes you immediately to community.
That's right.
And then there's always people in the community who are only too happy to come in.
For sure.
Genius Hour.
And it takes you to a bigger concept of community in the classroom.
Yeah. And
for all these kids to celebrate each other, and there's just a buzz as they're working, and there's no judgment on the topics. It's just, wow, that's super cool. And so, that sense of community that starts day one, when kids come in the classroom, and how do you build that, and how do you forge that? And that is my passion. Kids cannot take risks, they can't learn at school unless they feel safe, cared about, and you've built a community in that classroom. So that's important too. And Genius Hour is sort of the culminating fun part.
I think it's more than important. I think it's critical.
It's not only critical, Peter, it's foundational.
Yeah.
And if we don't start realizing that, we won't be able to get to the crux of the crisis in education. And so looking at what our pillars stand on, the foundation. And the foundation is not math, and it's not language, and it's not any of the subject areas.
No.
It's how kids feel. It's social emotional learning. It's how kids feel when they're in the building. And so we give it lip service,
Yeah.
but where we spend our money is what we deem important.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to a time where there's PD, where we have coaches who come in and help new teachers with building community and taking those steps, because we just assume that it's counterintuitive, and it's not always.
No.
It's not always. It takes skill.
Pam, let's just build up on that, because I think you're absolutely right. The focus on community needs to be the central learning. How do you go about that? What advice would you give to people coming into the profession?
I thought you'd never ask, Peter. Follow me.
Where are we going?
All right. So the day starts, and the kids come in, and I meet them at the door.
Oh, I see.
And they can choose a greeting from here, or they can make up their own.
Yeah.
And it's just that eye contact, that personal greeting.
Yeah.
This is a place you're welcome. This is your home for the day, and let's get started.
How simple is that?
That's it. So we have a lot of fun. They change it up. Some have the same one every day. We've done secret handshakes. We've done different things, but it is that connection.
Okay.
And it really, building community is about connection and connecting with those students in your room.
Absolutely.
So that's a start of day, start of year thing. But we also have check-ins. I don't have my check-in poster up, Peter, but I can do that at the end.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for kids to see, we've talked about different types of intelligence, but really it is about them seeing their own greatness and the greatness of others. So I'm going to bring you to the greatness wall.
Okay. A greatness wall.
And one of the first questions is, what are some of your greatnesses?
Okay.
And what?
Oh, look at that.
And how are they going to help our community?
And these were generated by the youngsters, by the
They are,
students.
and a lot of adjectives there, and so I have got them on magnets. Because we'll do greatness detectives, and we'll have different qualities we put up, and then I have some secret detectives who are looking for kids who are showing that quality for that week.
Okay.
But we keep referring to it, and we do person of the day.
Yeah.
And when we do person of the day, and I wait till a few months in so they get to know each other.
Yes.
And I just cut little strips of paper, and they do a compliment.
The point of Genius Hour is it gives you a lot of choice. Is that important to you?
And we talk about the
Why?
recipe for a genuine compliment and how it feels to receive one.
Okay.
And so they each write their compliment for that person. They go to the greatness wall, because the recipe is the person's name,
Yeah.
what are one or two of their greatnesses, and what's some evidence to back that up. And then they sign it. You need to own your words. And so at the end, all 30 students have written a compliment. The person whose day it is writes a little cover page with their name in bubble letters, collect those, staple them together, and they go home with that. And I will tell you, Peter, just last week I ran into an former student, not old, still young, but well into their 20s. And the first thing students will say to me, Mrs. Parks, I still have my person of the day. And so that's powerful.
That is powerful.
It's powerful. The words of their peers.
Yeah.
And those genuine compliments on hard days, they look at those and they remember who they are. And that has impact.
Back again, Pam. So the next stage in community building.
So the other thing, when kids come in the room, so we've had the greeting at the door, and then they come in, and we don't know what they've experienced in the morning. We don't know how they're coming in. And so how do they let us know? We do check-ins. And it can be so simple. And this idea actually came from kids. We were working with math, and I had an elaborate check-in where they were doing it in their notebooks, and I really hadn't thought it through. But they said, well, why don't we just put a block on our desk?
Yeah.
And so we developed together this check-in. And so they have just a stack of cubes in their desk.
Yeah.
And then in the morning they put whatever color matches how they're feeling, and they put a white cube with it if they want a conversation with me, for me to go and talk. But I can just do a quick look and see who's having a rough morning.
How well does it work in practice?
It works very well. It works very well. Like everything else, it doesn't work the whole year.
No.
So I start out with this, and then it kind of dies off a bit, and then we have to resurrect it or change it a little bit. But this is one thing we've used for checking in.
Yeah.
But it really, you do need those quick ways of assessing where your students are emotionally.
Yeah.
And seeing who really needs that check-in and who really needs your time. And this is one quick way.
Thank you. It's my $1 million question, Pam. You had a magic wand, given a blank slate and the authority to reimagine learning environments. What would be some of the foundational, unshakable characteristics of that learning environment for you?
That is a $1 million question, Peter. And I would always relate things back to social emotional learning, to connection. If I was to bring one curriculum piece or piece that all teachers needed to have, is how do you, an explicit, and then you can flavor it how you like, and even up to high school, because we think it only needs to happen in elementary, but those kids, those big children, and they are children in high school, need it as well. How are you going to build community in your classroom, and what are you doing? So I'd have some curriculum with greeting. How do you greet your kids each day?
Yeah.
How do you check in with them? What do you do as a community to hear opinions? Do you have a circle? Do you close the week with a circle? How do you listen for student voice? How do you promote student voice? So those are all things that I would love to be tied into a curriculum that's fluid and loose, but explicit, because we assume that everyone knows and everyone can set up community, but I think it's highly lacking, and it is so foundational.
Question to you. I love the focus on student voice, but it's also clear from Genius Hour that you're a great believer in student choice, so
Student
that
choice.
they have some
For sure.
agency over their own learning. Why is voice so important?
Because we have brilliance in these little bodies, and we need to listen, because they have a lot to say and their voices are powerful. And we are here not as their dictators. We are here as facilitators to their learning, to how to use their voices in ways that can be heard. That's our job. And when you listen, it's amazing what you hear.